Ben Johnson spoke today at the coaches' breakfast, and he had some things to say that I think are going to be very beneficial to the Chicago Bears this season. We're going to talk about all that and more in today's episode of the Windy City Breeze Sports Talk Daily. Let's go. Now, if you are new to the channel, please like the video. Please subscribe to the page. We do talk Chicago sports daily on this channel. It's the only channel talking Chicago sports. How Chicago talks. Make sure that you get in tune with us, my guy. Let's start it off here. Because Ben Johnson hit a number of topics in today's press conference at the coach's breakfast, and I thought that there was a bunch of things that really stood out, but there's a few that I think stand out above the rest, starting off with the conversation around Eric Bieniemy. I thought that how he talked about Eric Bieniemy and how he talked about how people reached out to him about Eric Bieniemy after he made the hire, the kind of coach that the Chicago Bears are getting in Eric Bieniemy. I mean, like, we've heard so many good things around him, of course, with names like Adrian Peterson attributed to him. But when you hear that guys around the league, Ben Johnson, what he said on that, said he's going to coach the piss out of these running backs now. That's what he does. Everybody that texted me after we hired him, I had probably a half a dozen people that have worked with him in the past, and they said, you just hired the best running backs coach in the league. And that's a conversation that we were all looking to have around the Chicago Bears. Hey, if you're going to go out there this offseason and get guys, go get the best guys. Finally do what we want you to do. Go get the best players that you can get. Go get the best coaches that you can get. Spend some money on this thing and get it done. Ben Johnson seemed very excited about the hire of Eric Bieniemy. I think when you pair that up with the fact that this running back room is going to be interested with some of the comments that we've heard about, from Eric Bieniemy on it and how he's going to coach these guys, like, you're going to have to coach a ton of guys up, and I think that's the expectation here with Bieniemy. He expects Ben Johnson expects him to push the running backs hard to make these guys into the best versions of themselves. And listen, while I am not the biggest fan of the fact that we paid DeAndre Swift, do I think that there's nothing DeAndre Swift can do to become a better running back? Do I think that he can never get back to the 8-touchdown guy that he once was? Yeah, I do. But I think it is. Remember, Eric Bieniemy said this, and we did a video about it on the comments that, on how he feels about DeAndre Swift, and everybody was losing their minds saying, oh, he's going at Swift. He wasn't going at Swift. He was saying that he likes the running back that he is, but he needs him to understand, hey, there's 4.5 yards between those tackles that you're going to have to be able to get, and that you're going to be able to get. You just got to trust the process. And I think for me, when I look at that, when I hear that around Eric Bieniemy, that is where I get excited about him coming in here as this running backs coach. I do think he's going to get the most out of this team. Y'all know me. I was here all training camp last year saying the same thing. I'm really excited to see what he's going to do with Ian Wheeler, because Ian Wheeler was somebody that I thought really stood out. You may have a steal there, and if Eric Bieniemy can get the most out of him, that's going to be dangerous. Ben Johnson also talked about the Caleb Williams development. I want to hit on that next, but first, let me know how you guys feel about the comments that Ben Johnson made about Eric Bieniemy in the comments below. Do you like the fact that it sounds like the Bears have a dominant piece that people look around the league and go, that's the best guy? Let me know in the comments below. I'll be down there talking with you guys as well. Now, when it came to Caleb Williams, he talked about the development of Caleb Williams, and he talked about looking to adjust his game a little bit. And I know for a lot of people, ears perk up. You get a little bit nervous. You say, wait a minute. I thought we wanted this guy because he is the guy who can create the plays. He is the guy who can make the big throws and all of these different things. There's a couple of things that the Bears are going to be adding in here that I thought Ben Johnson brought out that do excite me around the Caleb Williams front and around the offensive front as well. But number one, talking about wanting to explore more of his comfort level under center. He noticed noticed that Caleb Williams mostly played through shotgun through high school and college, which has been talked about as something that can be a setback for quarterbacks when they get to the NFL, because you are going to need to play some of that under center. What he loves about this is he believes that being under center can help him not only just in the passing game in play action, but also help this team in the run game. What he said on this was there are going to be some things that we encourage that he looks to do a little bit differently. He's been predominantly a shotgun quarterback for most of his high school and college career, and so he's very comfortable there. We're going to work to see that comfort level under center and how much that applies. We had a lot of success where I was last, that going under center for the run game did translate to play action. And I mean, listen, it just makes sense. If you're under center, there's that chance that you could hand the football off. There's that chance that you could be throwing the football. Now, you've got that chance in shotgun as well, right? But to me, I think it's more believable if I see Caleb Williams running past the running back that, hey, I'm going to take a quick check and see if he hands that football off or not, especially in play action. Now, there's going to be certain times where there's drop back. I think it opened things up in the draw game for the Chicago Bears as well. And you're not starting 5 yards deep. You know what I mean? Like, you're not starting already behind the 8 ball, especially with an offensive line that had some of the struggles that it had last year. Now you've got completely different pieces in place up there, but I think the fact that he's looking not to change who Caleb Williams is, but change where Caleb Williams is comfortable at. And he said that in his opening day press conference. Be prepared to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. Like, we heard that immediately, and I think that he said that looking directly at Caleb Williams, Rome Odunze, DJ Moore, and all of those guys. And there's going to be moments where, listen, to start this thing off, am I going to say it's going to be the prettiest thing in the world? No, you got to break a lot of old habits that this team already has in place. Now, Caleb Williams, not so much, but a lot of these pieces that have been here, a lot of these guys that have been used to how things has been run over the previous regime, and some of these guys over the previous 2 regimes, you really have to go out there and say, okay, that's what that was. And Ben Johnson spoke to that today as well, saying, listen, we're clean slate here. That's what that was. That's how that was run. We're not going to be doing that, and we're going to find ways to make your life easier. I also love the fact that today we got a real emphasis on EPA per play coming into this season, and I think that that's interesting because, to me, when you talk about EPA per play, right, think about the previous regime. Think about what Matt Eberflus was doing before, where you're playing safe. You're not going based on what the analytics say you should do at that point on the field, right? You're saying, oh, well, we're here, so we're going for the field goal, when really there's times where you're in a go for it range, you're in touchdown range, you're in try to extend a play range, and Matt Eberflus wanted to play it safe. There's going to be a lot of habits, like I said, that you're going to have to break from that previous regime, and I think this is one thing that really helps you do that. For those of you who aren't diving as deeply into the analytics and different things like that, that's expected points per play added. Expected points added per play, I'm sorry. And to me, this is such a great stat because it talks about where you are on the field positionally. I think that it is one of those things that it's the best way to measure offensive and defensive efficiency. It's accounts for game situation. It accounts for down and distance. It accounts for field position, and it shows which plays are really helping a team win the game. And I think when you start to focus on this, you start to get the more aggressive offenses that are taking bigger chances. Because listen, if I'm at the 15-yard line and I need to, maybe this is a time to go for a field goal, but my expected points added determines based on the analytics that, hey, no, you go for this because you should be coming away with 7 points here. You shouldn't be coming away with 3 points anymore. That's a failed play if you come away with 3 points in this situation. Now, of course, game situation and different things are going to dictate it if it's a game-winning situation, stuff like that. That's why I like this stat a lot. But if it's earlier in the game, right, it may say, hey, where you're at in the field positionally right now, you should be going and trying to get 7. That's going to create some times where you do have turnovers. That's going to create some times where you do take less chances. But that's also going to create a ton of times where you are much more aggressive. And I think that's going to help Caleb Williams immensely coming into this season, especially looking at last season where there were times where it seemed like Caleb Williams wanted to take chances, but just didn't, because the emphasis is, hey, kid, make sure that you don't turn the football over in this game. I think the best example of EPA per play, and I saw Taylor Dahl tweet this out, and I went and did the research as well on this, but The best example of EPA per play was the fact that Jared Goff threw 5 picks against Houston, and they still won that game. The EPA per DB was first. The EPA on all DBs in that game was first. So you won the EPA per play, and you ended up winning the game. Essentially, that is what this stat shows. I think Ben Johnson said, and I can't remember this, and I should have written this down, but I believe he said 80% of the time when a team wins EPA per play, they win the game. I may have that wrong. If you guys remember what that was exactly, let me know in the comments below. But I believe he said 80% of the time when a team wins EPA per play, they win the game. Think about that situation where Jared Goff throws 5 interceptions in the first half, and they find a way to win that game. Now, again, I'm not sitting here telling you that the analytics is the end-all, be-all situation here, but I do think this is one of the best stats to determine whether a team is going to win a game or lose a game, how aggressive they should be. And guess what? The Bears were never at the top of the chart in EPA per play. Maybe a couple of weeks. I feel like there were a couple of weeks where I do remember them being up there, but for the most part, they were always kind of just right in the center of that graph and not in the best spot. You want to see yourself at the top of that chart, man, and the Bears weren't there. I love the fact that this is going to be an emphasis for the Chicago Bears coming into this season. Hey, man, hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. Let me know your thoughts on the Bears going with a more analytical route than maybe the more safe football route. I think this is what happens when you bring in an offensive guru, so if you will, versus bringing in the defensive guy who's more focused on playing it safe and letting the defense win the game for you, which I think we saw a ton under Matt Eberflus. Just, hey, good enough is good enough. Not for Ben Johnson, and I love that. Ben Johnson also talked about the left tackle situation here on the team, talking about both Braxton Jones and Kiran Amegadjie. He talked about Jones being on the right track after his season-ending injury, after a season-ending ankle surgery in December. Expected him to be limited at the start of training camp, so something to watch for there, which means Kiran Amegadjie could get a ton of run to start training camp, could get a ton of experience to start training camp. But I thought this was what was very interesting here when he mentioned Braxton Jones. He said the number one thing, in my opinion, the tackles need to do is pass protect, which, listen, that is a indictment right now in Braxton Jones' game. I feel like he's better in the run game. I thought, maybe he would get a little bit more of a shot here because he is going to be good in the run game, but Ben Johnson coming out saying on day one, hey, we got to be able to pass protect. That's what it comes down to. I think he's got the feet to get that done. We're going to challenge him to maybe gain a little bit more weight so that he can anchor a little bit better in pass pro. But everything I've seen so far has been a phenomenal athlete out there on the edge that we feel we can work with. And listen, I like the fact that Ben Johnson is going, listen, this guy has certain intangibles, has certain features, has certain talents that we can use in our system, but there's some things that we got to tweak. I think that's basically what he's saying about everybody who's on this team. I got some guys, I got some pieces. This works here, this works here, this makes sense, this can happen, but it has to happen in how we're going to do it, with how we're going to do it, not how it has been done in the previous regime. And I love the fact that he's looking at Braxton and saying, listen, Braxton's got all these intangibles. He's got all these things that he does well. He does have good feet. The problem is he gets pushed backwards. Gain a little bit of weight, and that is different from the previous regime again, right? Remember, they wanted the lean guys. They wanted the guys that can get out and run. They wanted the guys that were more speedy than the guys that had a ton of weight to them. See what Braxton Jones ends up doing this offseason. How much weight is he going to have to gain here? Is it going to have to be muscle? Or are we talking about just pure fat? But essentially, hey, put a backside on this guy. Let him go out there and build his anchor up, and he's somebody that we can use. Again, Braxton Jones literally has all of the measurements that people are losing their minds over for why we shouldn't go after Will Campbell. He's got all the measurements you need. He's got the long arms. He's got the broad chest. He's got the good feet. He just doesn't have the body weight and the mass to stop anybody up front. I really wonder how Ben Johnson is going to affect Braxton Jones in that regard. He also talked about Kiran Amegadjie. Talked about he liked his development out of coming out of college, and believe he does have some strong traits that the Bears can work with there. Wasn't discouraged by his 2024 game tape. I mean, he got thrown into a bad situation overall. It wasn't a great starting spot for Kiran Amegadjie. Recognizes that he was put in a tough situation last season, and I think that's going to be the thing for Kiran that really is going to help him here, especially if the Bears don't go left tackle in the draft, which, listen, I still think you need to. I just think you've hit a ceiling with guys, but I love the development around. If you can develop somebody that you're not going to have to pay a ton of money to moving forward, have at it. But to me, right, the conversation around Kiran is now Kiran, with Braxton Jones being limited in training camp, is going to get a ton of run here. And that is going to be the thing that is going to give him the opportunity to really develop. Remember, last season, no offseason program, no rookie mini camp, no training camp. He was out the entire time. You end up throwing him out there in a game. Don't give him any chipping help on the left side. You give him nothing that he can go out there and kind of try and figure out his game with. You basically said, hey, kid, don't die. And he did. And listen, while I feel like Kiran, I feel like Braxton are very similarly built. I feel like they're going to have some of the same issues at that left tackle position. Doesn't mean that Ben Johnson sees nothing in this young man that he can't develop. He's going to be a second-year player here. He is a third-round pick. You hope that this is somebody that you can get the most out of. And I would say this, right? The hope for me is that both Braxton and Kiran Amegadjie develop a long way this season in the pass protect game. Kiran, I just need you to develop in the figure out that the where the NFL is at. And again, I put a lot of that on Flus. I put a lot of that on Waldron for throwing him out there and basically just saying, hey, figure it out. Or was that Thomas Brown that threw him out there? One or the other. But hey, figure it out. We're not going to give you any help on the other side. We're not going to give you a running back to chip. We're not going to give you a tight end over the top of the block, right? We're not going to help you. You figure it out. Let's see, sink or swim. Here you go, baby. Well, he sank. It's the NFL. You can't just sink or swim, throw guys out there and expect everything is going to go perfectly. This was the first professional football action that he had seen because he didn't play in the joint practices, which the Bears are going to be exploring yet again. He didn't play in the training camp runs and different things like that. Like, he didn't get that opportunity. So this is the first real football that he's getting a chance to see versus the NFL talent, and he got cooked. I like the fact, my dream is that you can develop both of these guys to the point where, hey, if you need to trade one of them because one's going to be coming up for contract, that would be Braxton Jones, and you've got Kiran Amegadjie sitting in the wings waiting, and he seems ready to take that next step as well. That's the perfect world for you. That's the perfect scenario for you. And so that's the hope that I have with these guys, man. I love the things that we're hearing from Ben Johnson. There was still a ton more, but I thought these were the things that really stood out to me for the Chicago Bears here. Hopefully, we're going to see this hit the ground running pretty quick. They also mentioned the captains and difference, how there's going to be differences and how the captains are done. Remember, there were 8 captains last season, and there was like a rotating captain that was 3 to 5, or that was voted on for every game. Seems like this game, the Bears, or this season, per Ben Johnson, Bears will probably have about 3 to 5 captains all season long, and they will be voted on by the players. So there's going to be some leadership. There's going to be some accountability. There's going to be some conversations on how different things are going to be coming into this season from what they were last season. But that's what you expect with the new regime. And hopefully this is the one that finally gets it done. Hey, let me know how you guys feel in the comments below. I'll be down there talking with you as well. As always, it's your boy, Pat the Designer, back at it again. Love what I'm hearing from Ben Johnson. Let's hope that this all translates into success for the Chicago Bears. As always, man, y'all stay safe out there, Chicago. Bear down. One love. Peace.